Good afternoon and welcome to you to our Lunch and Learn. My name is Holly Dinnany. I am with Family Partners of Morris and Sussex County, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our weekly Lunch and Learn program. Many of you have joined us before, and I hope you remember that we are a very casual, friendly setting here. We are inviting you to lunch with an expert. And when I say we're inviting you to lunch, that means that please feel free to keep your camera off if you're nibbling and you don't want us to see you nibble. That's fine. We're happy you're here. If you'd like to turn your camera on, we always love to see a smiling face. I think we're all starved for the smiles these days. But we are happy for you to join us today because we have a very important topic that we'll be talking about, which is transitioning youth from the children's system of care to the Division of Developmental Disabilities. And I have learned in my time with Family Partners that this is a topic that's really important for parents to be educated on and also to not be afraid of, because there are a lot of options out there for the next stage of the youth. And it's really important to have information in your pocket so that you know what your options are and who your resources are. So I will invite you to please utilize our chat. If you have a question that you would like answered, if you would like to speak to our speaker, just let us know. This is your lunch. Monique has given us her time today, but that's because she wants to help you. So please ask questions. Please give us scenarios if you would like feedback on what's happening with you. So utilize the chat. Know that we are recording this presentation and we will be sending it to you afterwards. So you don't even have to go crazy taking notes if you don't want to. We will make sure that you have all the information, and I'm sure Monique will also throw us some information to send out to you as well that will be helpful. So today is Thursday, October 22nd, hard to believe. And our guest today is Monique Lewis, who is the Executive Director of Equal Opportunity Support Services. And she is going to tell us a little bit about her organization and how they fit into this system, right, Monique? There's a whole thing that's happening here as far as I will liken it to college search, when parents are looking for what their child is going to do after high school, whether it's a job, whether it's VOTEC, whether there's a lot of different ways that you can go. And it seems to me that this is no different, that you need to do your research, right, early and figure out what your options are. So I am going to turn it over to you, Monique. Welcome. Hi. And thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. As she said, I'm Monique Lewis. I'm the Executive Director of Equal Opportunity Support Services. And we provide a variety of services, including support coordination. We provide training for staff. And then we also do what's called support brokerage, which helps people with special needs connect to different services in society. I've been in the field for over 20 years, and I've worked with all types of people with all types of needs, people with disabilities, people with non-disabilities that maybe need help with things that they need to better their lives. And I've worked all different types of positions, from direct care, so I have a good understanding of how it is to be a support staff, all the way up until management. So I understand the different dynamic from we need something versus how do we get something to someone. Okay, and I'm glad to be here with you guys today. Okay, so is everybody ready for Halloween? I hope everybody's ready for Halloween. So let's think about Halloween for a quick moment. If you also think about transitioning into the adult service system, it can be a really scary experience. And if you think about Halloween as well, what you're doing is you're going from place to place and you're kind of searching for the unknown, hoping that you get something good in the end. And the way that you approach and prepare for the process of looking for adult services can end up to be either a very tricky process, or it could be a great treat. Okay.
A++, Monique. A++.
Thank you. I didn't know how that was gonna go over, but I tried. Okay, so understanding the adult service system. Now, it's very different because when you go from the school service system until the adult course of life, it's a whole different world. When you are in the adult service system, it's important to remember that things are not entitlements as they are in the children's service system. A person must actually qualify for different types of services, and there are a variety of services that can provide support to meet a person's needs. The earlier that you start to put a plan together, that usually results in a better outcome for your child's needs. So let's talk about children graduating and aging out of the school system. There are different steps that you have to take in order to get this process accomplished. The steps involve applying for Medicaid eligibility. Then you apply for DDD eligibility. You want to complete what's called the NJCAT, and we're going to go over in details what is involved with completing the NJCAT. You want to complete an agency selection form. We're going to talk about that as well as we go through the different steps. Okay, first we have step one. Okay, step one to accessing adult services from the New Jersey Division of Disabilities involves applying for Medicaid eligibility. In order to receive services from the Division of Developmental Disabilities, you must be Medicaid eligible, but not only be Medicaid eligible, you also have to maintain your Medicaid eligibility. Okay, the way that you can apply for Medicaid is the website that I have listed here. You can go online and you can complete the application online. You can also go in person to your Board of Social Services, the local one for your town. And then you can also, at the bottom of the screen, we have listed a email that you can email. It's a help desk affiliated with DDD. In the event that you have any questions and you can't find what you're looking for, you can also send an email to find out applications, how to fill out an application to become Medicaid eligible. It's also important to remember when you're searching for the application for Medicaid eligibility to be aware of the different websites and the different scams that could be out there for people that are trying to get your information. You want to make sure that the website that you're applying to or that you're searching for information, government website usually ends in .gov. So you want to make sure that the website that you're accessing ends in .gov. And all of the information here, if you are looking for this, we'll have at the end of the presentation if you can't write as quickly as some of us can. Okay, so let's talk about step two. Step two, after you apply for Medicaid and you're approved for Medicaid, then you want to go and apply for DDD eligibility. DDD is an acronym for the Division of Developmental Disabilities. And what you can do is you can go to your local community service office and you can apply in person. There's a listing of all of the different departments, community offices, and their phone numbers in the event that you need to contact them. And then also you can go online and you can fill out the application by visiting the DDD website to apply.
Monique, I'm gonna interject with a question. If receiving Social Security, are you automatically Medicaid eligible?
You are not automatically Medicaid eligible. You still have to fill out the application for to become eligible for Medicaid.
Thank you.
Okay, for step three, what you want to do is you want to complete the NJCAT. The NJCAT could be completed by, again, visiting your nearest DDD office to speak with an intake worker, and the NJCAT can also be completed over the phone, okay? When a student turns 21, you can do the NJCAT, and typically The earliest you can do it is in the fall or winter of their senior year. Now, what I want to do is I want to take some time to spend on the NJCAP, because this is a very, 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 if not one of the most important steps of the process, is to complete the NJCAP. Now, the NJCAP is part of the intake process, and either a family member or the person themselves or a responsible person that's helping the child out can fill out the NJCAP. It ensures that individuals applying for services do so in a standardized format, and the result established was called a tier, okay? A tier is broken down into 3 different categories. It's broken down by medical, it's broken down by behavioral, and then it's also broken down by self-care. So what will happen is the answers on the NJCAT for each section will give them a number from 1 to 4, and then they combine the numbers 1 to 4 to develop what is called a tier. Now, the tier determines the budget that you will receive for services, okay? The tiers typically go from an A all the way up until a D. A is the lowest tier, D is the highest tier, which equals A having the lowest amount of funding up until D, and the funding increases as you get higher on the tiers, okay? The budget also determines the amount of money that you have to spend for the year, as well as the reimbursement rate that providers will receive once you have your tier, okay? I don't know does anybody find that confusing, or is everybody clear about that? We're good? All right.
I'm watching the chat, folks. If you have a question, or if there's something you'd like her to review, please don't be shy. And so far so good, I think, Monique.
Okay, good. Okay, so you have a budget for a planned year from the date that the plan starts. Any money that's not used in the budget cannot be carried over. It expires at the end of the planned year. Now, it's also important, the reason why I wanted to spend so much time on the NJCAT is it's important to understand, as I said, it drives the budget, it drives the supports, it drives the services that you're going to receive. And what happens is family members sometimes have difficulty with filling out the NJCAP, because when they look at their child, they view their child as being either independent in different areas, not needing different assistance in areas. And what you want to make sure is, if you were to remove yourself from the picture and the question was proposed to the person, are they able to do it independently, or do they need assistance with it? So you want to make sure you're paying attention to that, okay? Another important part of the NJCAT is making sure that you're being honest. For one example that I had a individual whose mother assisted with completing the NJCAT. And this particular individual had a significant amount of behavioral needs. He had some OCD, he had some minor aggressions, and there were areas that he could definitely need assistance with. When this particular family member filled out the NJCAT, what she did was, she didn't fill out the NJCAT as accurate as it should have been, because her idea is if I tell them the truth about my son's needs, then maybe I won't be able to find a day program. Maybe I won't be able to find a provider to help him. However, that's not what's in the best interest of the person. The reason why I say that is because, as a support coordinator, if a support coordinator is going out and they're looking for day programs or different services to support the person, you want to make sure that they're in an appropriate a program for them. And also, it drives the budget. So, for example, if you have a child with behavioral needs or significant behavioral challenges, and you send them to a program, with an increased budget or a higher tier, then the program can actually build in or provide additional staffing or whatever supports is needed to accurately assist the person. So I just want to emphasize, when you complete the NJCAT, to be accurate. When you think about it, think about the person themselves with you removed from the picture. And then also, just be as honest as possible, because it provides the best situation for the person to be able to access the different supports.
Monique, I'm going to hop in for a minute and just tell you that I appreciate you emphasizing that, because I know at Family Partners, we help families often access services that are available. And sometimes we have to coach folks to, as you said, be more clear and more honest about what the challenges are. I mean, I think all of us have pride, and all of us don't like to admit how difficult a scenario might be. But to say that my son gets angry sometimes is different than to say my son tried to push me down the stairs in an argument. Like there's two different extremes. So thank you for lifting that up. And, folks, we just have to remember that there are a lot of great services out there that try to do the best that's for the youth, and, safety and growth and happiness and everything else. So.
Exactly. And what stood out about that case was, I was looking at the IEP, and the IEP, as you guys should very well know, is a document that follows a student throughout their educational entitlement. So I was looking at the IEP, I was looking at the NJCAT, and then I was also looking at what's called the ISP, which is the document used in the adult services system. And it was 3 different people in front of me. And it's important to make sure that everything matches and the information matches, so the person can be best supported. Okay. Okay, so step number 4 is to complete a agency selection form. Okay. We're going to talk about equal opportunity support services. We provide support coordination services, as I mentioned, and there's about 220 different agencies throughout the state of New Jersey that provide support coordination services. So it's important that you do your research and that you connect with an agency that makes you happy, that meets your needs. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how to select an agency that will meet your child's needs. Okay. So exactly what is a support coordination agency? A support coordination agency is an organization that's qualified by DDD to assist participants in gaining access to the supports that they need. So what exactly does a support coordination do? A support coordination agency employs support coordinators. Now, a support coordinator is the direct care staff that will work with your family member or your child. And what they do is they help with identifying a person's needs. They're responsible for plan development. That's the plan I was just talking about, the ISP. And that stands for the Individualized Service Plan. They're responsible for locating services, and there's a variety of services that could be available to a person. They can locate services that specialize in providing services to people that have disabilities, different types of government supports. For example, they could connect you to the Division of Rehab Services, otherwise known as DVRS. And then also general services in the community, like different colleges or different other agencies that not only are specific to providing supports to people with disabilities, but also to the general population. They're responsible for monitoring the different types of support. And that involves like adding services to the plan when needed, taking out services. And that's important as well, because the services are withdrawn, the charge for the services are withdrawn from the budget. So if you have someone that puts a service in a plan and the support coordinator is not necessarily monitoring the services, it withdraws money from the budget. So you want to make sure your support coordinator is actually reviewing the services that a person has. So again, as an example, I have one family who, when the COVID pandemic hit, the county transportation actually stopped running. So then the challenge was how do we get this person back and forth to work? So DDD set up an account with Uber to allow the people with special needs to go back and forth, and everyone to get back and forth to work. You would think that that's a great thing. However, if the person doesn't have the ability to utilize Uber, it's not really an effective service. So this was actually a person that was transferred to our agency. It was already written in a plan. And it was actually quite unfortunate because the service was, I think it was close to $10,000 that was taken out the budget that he wasn't able to use. Another important thing about being able to monitor the supports in the budget is once the time has passed for a support that's allocated, you're not able to go back in time and then retrieve the money back from the budget. So let's say he had the Uber service in his budget from April to June, for an example, okay? And then if let's say he was transferred to us in July, we can't go back and request the funds that were already allocated from April to June because that time has lapsed. So you want to make sure you have a support coordinator that is monitoring the services and will add and remove services as appropriate. You want to support coordinators also respond to emergencies or other related needs. Sometimes we have individuals who live on their own and maybe their budget didn't extend for the month and they ran out of food. How does your support coordinator respond to provide them assistance with that? We also have individuals who could use assistance with housing vouchers because I had one family who was actually, it was really sad. It was a young lady who lived with her mother her entire life. Her mother suddenly passed away. And her mother she was an adult, but her mother was responsible for paying the rent on a monthly basis. So as a support coordination agency, we had to intervene and we had to look for the different types of supports we can put in place to, for one, try to keep her in her home and, provide staffing and so on and so forth. So support coordinators need to be familiar with or able to respond to an emergency situation. Okay, so how do you actually choose a support coordination? This is a new experience for most everyone. As we said before, it could be a spooky, challenging experience as well. And choosing a support coordination agency comes from having an understanding of the different things, as I said, that you're looking for. You're looking to see how you can match a person's needs and wants with the skills of a support coordination agency. You want to make sure you find an agency that knows the person's local community or knows your local community. And that's important because sometimes there are little programs that they have available. And if the support coordinator is actually part of the community, they'll know those little nooks and crannies and little programs that aren't so widely advertised that may benefit a person. You want to select an agency that you feel comfortable with working. I know I had a family who they were transferred and she was quite hesitant to reach out anytime she needed help. So when I spoke to her, I said, hey, you don't only have to email. We answer telephones, you can text. We're very open here. And she always felt that she wasn't able to, when she spoke to the support coordinator, she felt as if she was bugging the person or she didn't want to ask for anything. So make sure you have someone who has your back. Make sure you have someone who's comfortable, and make sure you have someone who knows you very well. And then you also want to, when choosing a support agency, just discuss what's expected with the support coordinator from them, the type of services that you want them to provide. And remember, it's not the old system, whereas people would have to wait for months and weeks to get access to services and then get answers and phone calls. No, it's actually a very competitive field. You are now the one in control. You control that person's budget, and you control the way that you want the dollars that your family member is entitled to, the way that you want them spent. If you don't like a support coordination agency, you fill out a form, you send it in, you could switch support coordination agencies. Let's say your family members with a provider. You don't like the services the provider's getting. It's not like you have to call DDD, you have to go on the waiting list, and then you have to wait for another provider. No, that provider, you stop the service that day and you start another service. So you're in full control of your family member's budget, as well as the services that you can choose. So
I have a question. I'm sorry, Monique, if I can hop in. Bob is asking if you're able to choose an agency that's not listed in your county.
Okay, you can choose an agency that is not listed in your county, because an agency doesn't have to necessarily be listed in your county to provide supports. However, the agency has to be approved to provide supports in your county. So for example, Equal Opportunity Support Services, we're located in Plainfield, New Jersey. However, we're approved to provide services throughout the entire state. So we'll, our furthest person is in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, which is about 2.5 hours away. However, we have support coordinators who work in Egg Harbor Township. And also, especially today with everything being remote and most things being done by computer, even if you're not, it's preferable that you have a support coordinator in the area. But also, on the other hand, if you like an agency, you like how responsive they are, you like the things that you're doing, but they're not in your local town, they have access to the different information, and just as everyone else does. Okay.
And
So,
Monique, is it true that if you don't select an agency, one is assigned to you?
yes, absolutely. I was going to talk about that a little bit later, but yes, if you don't choose a support coordination agency, one is assigned to you. Absolutely. And I'm going to go through that. I have a couple of steps on how to fill out the form, so I'm going to go through that as well. Okay.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions? Okay, so when you're choosing a support coordination agency, you want to know, ask yourself, what is important to your child? The people that they associate with, the places that they go, what type of interests do they have? What type of hobbies are they involved with? What type of activities are they involved with? Do they have routine friends that they want to stay connected to? And, you know, because I had a young man who was graduating from high school, and you know, just like all of us, whereas when we transition from, let's say, even leaving a job, or let's say we're moving to a new house, we're essentially losing the connections that we've made over the course of years. So this young man, he was absolutely terrified because he was graduating from school. He couldn't see the teachers that he was going to see anymore. He couldn't see his friends that he was going to see anymore. And his sister, who was a great support system, she was going away to college. So he felt as if he was losing everything and everyone in his life. So what we were able to do is connect him. Because of the pandemic, a lot of the programs are doing different activities via Zoom. So, you know, we were able to connect him with his friends via the Zoom classes, and they were taking classes together essentially at the same agency, in which, you know, they really appreciate it and they really love. So even though he's losing that stability of waking up every morning and going to school, he was able to maintain some stability by staying in contact with his friends. And that doesn't have to be formally through a class. It was just important to him that before he left school, we worked with the team to see how he could stay connected with a few friends. Okay. So you also want to ask yourself, what type of supports does your child need as an adult? When you're finding an agency, what you first want to do is maybe start to create a list of the different things that you're looking for in terms of needs as well as wants. And then also, as we go through the different steps to finding an agency, you want to make sure that, or it's a suggestion that you're keeping track of all the different agencies that you're looking for. So that way at the end, you can definitely choose. But when you look at what type of agency you're looking for, and you're also looking at identifying the needs of your child, you want to look at different things in terms of safety, okay? How many hours of support does my son or daughter need, okay? Because remember, they were receiving supports through the school, and they were occupied for most of the day. They have after school programs. Now you have an adult person who may be home for the majority of the day if they choose not to go to day program. So what does your child need in order to stay safe when they're at home? What do they need for their health? Do they need occupational therapy? What do they need? Physical therapy? Could they benefit from speech therapy? And looking at their finances, what do they actually need for their finances? As I spoke about the young lady in the past, she needed the supporting housing voucher in order to be able to live independently as an adult. You want to look at the different things, or make sure you have a support coordinator and support coordination agencies who are familiar with how to address the different needs of your child. Do they need a behavior support plan? What do they need for their daily living? Do they need help in the morning? Do you need a staff to come in and support them with getting ready in the morning? In terms of transportation, how are they going to access different types of recreation, day programs? What about community inclusion? What do they need for community inclusion to get to their social activities that they're familiar with? And to maintain wellness, what would they need as an adult to stay well? Do they need to be involved in a gym? Do they need a specialist like a nutritionist? So when looking at support coordination agencies and you're assessing your child's needs, these are the different things that you want to express to the support coordinator and see if they have an understanding of how to put these supports in place. Now, there's a big difference between what we need and what we want. And sometimes those lines could kind of blur. And I'm still on the fence between whether I actually need chocolate or want chocolate. I think that's more of a need versus a want, but okay. So let's talk about what your child may want, okay? Now, some of us, this is a very, very, very touchy subject. How about a relationship, okay? We may not want children necessarily to be out there and dating, but is that maybe something that they want? Do they want to have relationship in your home? Do they want their home modified? Is there something that you can do that would improve their mobility in the home? You can look at home modifications, vehicle modifications. Employment, do they want to work? Do they want to go to a day program? Do they need job coaching? And do the community, when you look at the community, do they want to be connected with others through social media? And they have assistive technology for people who want to be connected. Like we have a young man who, it's amazing the technology that they have. He has adaptable equipment where he can actually type through a head. It's something connected to him, which provides him the assistance to type by looking at the screen. So do they need different types of, or want different types of assistive technology to help them stay connected? And also the different things like their well-being. Do they want to be a lifelong learner? Do they want to maintain their health? And also, do they want to be engaged? Okay, so we want to list those needs and we want to list those wants when we're looking for a support coordination agency, to make sure we could communicate that to the support coordinator when they're looking for the different supports. So ultimately, I love this picture. I want to be there. I want to give them a nice warm hug. So ultimately, when you think about what you want from a support coordinator, you want to ask yourself, how will this person help my child get the proper supports that they need? Now, specifically, when you're looking at a support coordination agency, there's some nitty gritty things that you want to make sure that you get down to, because just like I don't know if you guys have ever had an experience where you meet a salesperson and or let's say like a contractor, you meet a contractor, they do an awesome presentation, everything is great, but then when they actually come to deliver the services, you're like, but that's not the person or the proposal that you presented in the beginning. So here's a few hints, and here's a little a couple of tricks that we're going to throw in our Halloween bag that you can use to find out the nitty gritty of support coordination agencies. Okay, one kind of secret question is, how many people do you support? There are some agencies out there who have coordinators that have as many as 50 to 65 people on their caseload individually. And you ask yourself, with a person carrying a 50 to 65 person caseload, how does that affect the services that you'll be able to get? Will you have a slow response time? Would that support coordinator be impersonal? Will they be able to ask or address the needs that I need? Will you be waiting for services for a very long time? So depending on the agency, you probably want to ask them, how many people does the support coordinator actually carry on their caseload? Another important thing, or another trick, is ask, what is your turnover rate? Honestly, this is not an easy job, and support coordination is a relatively new concept. It's only been in existence for the last 6 years, which most people say, hey, if you've been doing it for 6 years, you should have got it right by now. However, there's so much information and everybody isn't the same. There's so many, if I have 10 different people, there's 10 different approaches to 10 different ways to get things done. So you have to learn 10 different ways to do something. So that can be challenging. A lot of support coordination agencies have high turnover. For one, when a person is transferred to us, which we hope is our final stop, they could at some point, did you want to ask a question?
You saw me leaning forward. I'm sorry, someone had asked the question, what's a good number of cases that someone should be carrying?
So DDD actually doesn't have a cap on a minimum or maximum, but a suggestion by DDD is about 30 to 35. That's a good caseload. Less is better, but I would think a good suggestion would be, I would say my suggestion is 25 to 30, because we wouldn't have our support coordinators carry a bigger caseload to that, because we're very person-centered and we want to make sure that we have all needs met. We don't like people to wait. So I would say an average of 30. If you hear numbers of 40 to 45, that's kind of an alert to say, okay, this is a lot. And agencies may potentially obviously assign that many to maximize profit. So you want to think, maybe where does their interest lie? Okay. Not having a consistent support coordinator, it can affect the plan's consistency in terms of the supports. As I've mentioned earlier, with the individual that had the Uber added to his account, if he maybe had a support coordinator that consistently worked with him, then maybe that could have been assessed properly. And also errors can occur in a plan, just like with anything. If you're constantly switching services or constantly switching people, it doesn't really provide the best situation for a consistent planning. So how do you match people with support coordinators? And we touched on this a little bit earlier when we had the question regarding, does the support coordinator have to be in my county? Support coordinators agencies try to match people with support coordinators that live in their area, because they, as I mentioned earlier, have a tendency to know their area. They know the services, they know the little programs. They secretly hear about the best programs, which programs to avoid. So ideally, maybe a support coordinator that lives in your county or even in your town would be great. And then also the support coordinators know what a person needs if they're familiar with the person's area, but also their needs. And sometimes you have support coordinators that specialize with certain services. So if you have a support coordinator, if you have a person, for example, that has a lot of mobility needs, for example, if they're in a wheelchair and they need a lot of assistance with transferring, with bathing, to have a support coordinator that's very familiar with getting the support services, knowing the agencies that come out, they do the modification as well. That's good. That's a specialty area. But not only that, but actually your category of the parents that we're speaking to today, you guys are actually in a special category as well, because you're entering the new, the DDD service field. Not all support coordinators are familiar with the transition process. It involves also developing an ISP from the start. Some support coordinators are, when you transfer, if you have people that have been in the part of DDD for a while, you already have plans that are developed. So developing a brand new plan, connecting people with services is actually a skill set that an agency should have. So those are the different things that you want to look for when you're looking for matching people with supports and supports coordinators. Another trick that you can ask a person, another trick question that you can ask is, how long have you provided services? Now, there have been a lot of agencies that are provider service. Like I said, there's over 220 agencies that are in the field of providing support coordination specific services. So what you want to do is ask, how long have they been in the field? And there's different pros as well as cons to newer agencies that are in the field, also with existing agencies that have been in the field for a while. Some of the good things about the agencies that have been in the field for a while is they've kind of established, you know, that they're going to be there for a longer period of time. One of the cons of an agency that has been in the field for a while is they may not be very well versed in the new practices that are involved with connecting with supports, filling out the development of ISPs. A big agency that has been in the field for quite some time, they may have several different departments and may not be focused specifically on support coordination, whereas you have smaller agencies where their primary role is support coordination. So that can be a plus. There's one big kind of bone of contention with different agencies is a lot of the bigger agencies or agencies that have been in the field for a while, they boast that they can approve their own plans. Now, once a plan is developed, it goes through different kinds of approval. It could go for an agency approval where they can approve their own plans, or a newer agency has to submit their plans to DDD to review for accuracy. Once an agency has established that they're able to effectively deliver good plans, for lack of a better words, then they're what's called released and able to approve their own plans, okay? Just because an agency is not able to approve their own plans is not necessarily a reflection on the agency that they're doing any, you know, they're not providing good plans. They're probably newer in the field and they just have not been released to do the different plans. Now, just like with that, just like I mentioned, there's pros and cons to approving your own plans. Approving your own plans, it could relatively expedite some parts of the process. When a person is requesting support, one of the drawbacks to that is if an agency is approving their own plans. For example, we've had providers that have transferred over from different agencies, and when the plans are submitted to DDD, there are different kind of flags that are kind of brought up. So the standards don't seem to be as consistent with agencies that approve their own plans versus going through a state approval. Okay. Now, also for very quickly for agencies that approve their own plans, as I said, they kind of boast that they're able to approve the plans very quickly, but there's still some services, regardless of whether you're able to approve your own plan, there are still some services that require state approval. So even if they say they could approve their own plans, they still probably need some form of state approval to get some services approved. Okay. How does your agency respond to after-hour needs? And that goes to the question of how does the agency make you feel? How do they respond to emergencies we spoke about, but also after hours? Some parents work during the day and they're not able to connect with the support coordinator, and some agencies are available from 9 to 5. Does your support coordinator agency have extended hours? Do they have weekend hours? Do they work late evenings? That can potentially make a difference when trying to reach out for support. In terms of knowledge and experience, you want to ask a support coordination agency, what qualifications do the support coordinators have? DDD has a minimum of qualifications that the support coordinators have to meet. For example, all support coordinators have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree, but ask the agency, what other supports do you require in addition to, I didn't know it's 12:48. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I just looked at my time. We're almost done. What other requirements do you need? And what other requirements do you have beyond the minimum? What training do you provide? For example, some agencies, when they hire support coordinators, and I just have a lot of experience working with different hiring different support coordinators, the agency may just, some of us have had jobs where they just throw you to the fire. They're like, hey, go read the manual and figure this out. Do they do shadowing? Do they provide that ongoing support? How do you provide, you can ask the agency, how do they empower the people that they support? We have a lot of cultural differences in the people that we provide support. For example, I had a family who wanted to be very formal and they only wanted to be addressed by their last names. And sometimes we have a tendency to refer to people by their titles. Like we were in a meeting and the coordinator referred to mom as mom. She was like, Mom, what do you think? And the mom said, I'm not your mom. So you want to make sure that, there's different cultural preferences and differences in the way to address people. How do your support coordinators address those things? Do your support coordinators adapt the services and needs for different preferences? Like, are they advocating for your people? Another example, I had a member who, we do monthly monitoring, who was complaining regarding his case manager at the day program. Is your support coordinator just noting that? Are they actually following up? Are they advocating for the person? Are they teaching the person how to advocate for themselves? Okay. So with a support coordination agency, how do they provide monthly support? A support coordinator is required to do monthly checks. In addition to monthly checks, what does the agency do in order to monitor the support that's in the plan to avoid the situation we had that we spoke about with the Uber? One agency that I'm familiar with, what they do is they require that the staff support coordinators hand in monthly reports, and the monthly reports make them review each plan to ensure that the end date of the different services, to make sure that there's no potential end dates and there's an interruption in services. How do you give follow-up from the people you support? As I mentioned, if someone has a complaint, are they actually following up on it?
I have one
How
more
is your
question for you,
agency
Monique. I'm just going to jump in there too and ask you: is there, or will you be giving us a where we can find a list of all the agencies that are approved and what
Yes.
counties they're active in? Okay.
Yes. Okay. So how is your agency different from the others? How can you provide a reference? You could talk to different families, different providers, and the best reference of all, and I hear this all the time, is a parent of my son at school told me that's the best reference of all. Okay. Network with your current parents in the school. Ask them, who are they selecting? Why did they choose their agency? What was it about their agency? And then what you want to do is all of the information that we kind of talked about. It's suggested that you make a list, and maybe in your list, review all of the agencies that you interviewed. Just take note of how the agencies what agencies made you feel comfortable. Also, what agencies what agencies also share your beliefs. What agency seems to understand child's disability, which one is responsive, which one seems to have the skills and knowledge, and which agency seems to have dedicated people, which I think is one of the most important of all. Okay. Now, when actually selecting a support coordination agency, this is a sample of the support coordination agency selection form. What you want to do is take note that when you're choosing a support coordination agencies, if you look, oh, you can't see my mouse, but if you look, you're able to choose 2 support coordination agencies, okay? So when you're filling out the form, make sure once you make your selection, you utilize the option to choose 2 agencies. Okay, so what you want to do is, let's go over the steps really quick, okay? When you're trying to access the different DDD services, step 1 we spoke about is applying for Medicaid. Step 2 is to apply for DDD eligibility. Step 3 is to complete the NJCAT, and step 4 is to select a support coordination agency. Now, when exactly in the whole entire planning process do you do this? When your son or daughter is in their school year, from the beginning to June, their senior year, what you want to do throughout the entire year is you want to attend webinars like you're doing today. You want to go to different expos. You want to attend different trainings. They have disability expos. The Boggs Center is an excellent resource for different trainings they have for parents. That everything is free through the Boggs Center. They have what's called a PCP tool that you can utilize, and they're located on DDD's website, and that helps you practice the person-centered planning process, which involves development ISP, and then also, as we've been talking about throughout the day, learn about support coordination agency. Now, in your students, in your child's senior year, between February and March, that's when you want to select a support coordination agency. If you fail or you don't select a support coordination agency, one will, as Holly mentioned earlier, will be auto assigned to you. Okay. And the way you select the support coordination agency is by submitting the form that we just discussed. Now in April, DDD is going to start assigning the agency that either you selected or you auto sign. So you can find out what agency that if you've gotten approved or if you've been assigned to an agency, you can find out starting in April. And also starting in April, the way that you'll find out is either the agency will contact you in order to start developing the plan or reach out to you to start connecting with you. From May to June, this is the time that the ISP is developed in order to be able for the plan to be able to become effective once a student has turned 21, as well as once they've graduated school, okay? When an ISP is developed, this is a list of the different things that could possibly be included in the different services. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is an example of the different services that are available through the DDD budget and the adult services. Goods and services, that involves different things. Like some people go horseback riding, they go to join a gym, they take an art class, they take tennis lessons. Those services can actually be provided and paid for through the budget. Once a support coordination agency is assigned, they actually have the ability to attend ISP meetings, IEP meetings with the school. They can also do transition planning meetings, which is a good sign of whether you have a agency. Do they not want to start until the individual actually is able to access the services, or are they willing to start and work with the school to develop the plan and be part of the planning process? Okay, so hopefully with all of the information that we reviewed today, just like with Halloween, this experience isn't such a trick. I hope it'll turn out to be a nice big treat. Yay! And then by having the knowledge and the information, you'll be able to access and hopefully transition through the successfully through the DDD process. Okay. So I know I sped through the last. So are there any questions or anything that anyone would like to know?
I'm watching the chat. Monique, thank you so much for not only having, that was so much information, important information provided, but I really appreciated some of the stories that you shared as we went through. I think those examples really helped us understand why some of the points that you were making were so important. And I am going to repeat to everybody that we will be sending you the video of this presentation, along with handouts that Monique will share with us, as far as maybe some, even if you want a copy of your slides, whatever, we'll figure it out, but we will send you the video of this presentation along with some resources. And in those resources, Monique, will there be that list of where we can find agencies, like the whole?
Yes, so that's what I was going to say. And it's as easy as, I'll provide you with the list, but it's literally as easy as Googling New Jersey Support Coordination Agencies. Google New Jersey Support Coordination Agencies. And what happens is the Department of Human Services / DDD has an exhaustive list of all of the agencies throughout the state of New Jersey that provide support coordination services. On that list, it also gives you the county that each agency has that serves. It gives you the number of years that they've been in the field. And then it also gives you the ability to see if an agency can approve or not approve their own plans. So I'll send that in a list, but you can literally Google New Jersey Support Coordination Agencies, and I think it's about 50 or 60 pages.
Wow, that's great. And Monique, I had another question. Someone's asking, Colleen's asking, does a student have to be 21 and graduated from high school to be eligible for DDD? Okay, her son turns 21 at the beginning of the school year, so she's trying to figure out timing, I think.
Okay, so yes, a student doesn't have to be 21 and graduate to be eligible for services. If a student turns 21 before they graduate for services, then they can access some of the services, but the only thing they can't do is replicate services. Like if they're in school, they can't go to a day program. However, they can access the behavioral supports component of it. As long as the services are not replicated, if the student turns 21 before they graduated, they do have access to the services.
Okay, great. I think that answered her question. Thank you so much. I'm hearing lots of wonderful. Monique did a fabulous job, very helpful. And I just feel like with all of the seasonal niceties that you put in, I'm going to say your presentation was spooktacular, if I can say that. I love it. We really, seriously, thank you for for helping us look at this and have some fun, because, you know, I remember even in my own experience with helping my children look at colleges, there are some people who are terrified by the process, and then there are others who embrace it as an exciting new chapter. And what I'm feeling from you is that it's an exciting new chapter, and there are some really good things that youth have ahead of them, but finding the right agency to help that happen is really important.
Exactly. And then also for the person that asked the question, if they also Google, and I'll provide it in the resources, the New Jersey Developmental Disabilities Graduates Timeline. New Jersey DDD graduates timeline, and that actually provides you a timeline for when you, everything we discussed, when you provide, when you should start looking for services. And it also goes into details regarding how to navigate the challenges of a person turning 21 or not turning 21 before or after they graduate from school.
That's terrific. Well, thank you, Monique. Thank you so much. And I just want to let you folks know, she's coming back to us to do another program in November. We have a program called the Parent Power Hour, and it happens on Monday evenings. The date that she's going to be with us is November 23rd. But she will spend time reviewing a very brief version of her presentation. But the good news is she is going to be there to ask questions, to discuss scenarios. We're really looking for Parent Power Hour is there to offer you an expert, but for more of a conversation than a presentation. So it's really a perfect way that, you know, Monique has laid out a lot of helpful information, but please keep in mind, if you would like to come back, or if you have friends or if you have families that you feel would benefit from Monique's expertise, we really, really appreciate her being available to us. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention some other opportunities that we have at Family Partners. We're so glad you took time with us today, but we are an agency that provides programs for families who have children with challenges, as well as the parents and service providers of those individuals. So we have our youth partnership, which meets every Friday night for ages between 13 and 21. And we have a pumpkin carving contest coming up. So please go to our website or see me for more information on that. And we also have a support group for Spanish parents on Tuesday, for dads on Wednesdays, for moms on Thursdays. And next Monday, we have a program. Our Parent Power Hour will be on finding a job in this very challenging environment, what you can do to what positions and what industries might be more popular now, and how you can help yourself connect or your friend connect. That's Monday night. And next week, our Lunch and Learn will talk about anti-racism and how we speak to our children at different ages and different developmental levels, how we can more effectively and proactively do that. So thank you as always for joining us for lunch. Monique, you were an excellent presenter. Thank you so much for all the information. We look forward to having you back on November 23rd. And again, my name is Holly Dinnany with Family Partners, and we thank you for lunching and learning with us today. Everybody stay healthy. Bye-bye.